Well, good afternoon, my 7th grade friends, or good morning whenever you're watching this right now. It's afternoon when I'm making the video, but there's a good chance you're going to be watching this some morning next week. As we're continuing along here in Chapter 11, there's some key terms that we want to make sure you're familiar with this lesson. The first one is parallel lines. The idea of parallel lines should not be new to you. You should be able to look at a drawing, design, whatever you want to call this here. You should be able to look at something like this and recognize what the parallel lines are. Now, you're going to have to use your imagination, but you should already know that parallel lines are lines that keep on going, but they will never actually cross or intersect. Okay, they will never intersect. If I look at this figure, I should be able to realize that line C and line B are parallel lines, because if they keep going, they will never actually cross. So in this figure, the parallel lines are B and C. Another term that you need to be familiar with is transversal. A transversal is a line that intersects two or more lines. So if I'm looking at this figure here, I should be able to recognize that the transversal is line A. That is the line that is intersecting lines B and C, and you can see as a result, angles form. Whenever two lines intersect, a bunch of angles are formed. You can see angles 5, 6, 7, 8, angles 1, 2, 3, and 4. And angles are formed whenever there is a transversal. Now, when I look at this figure and I see this transversal crossing this pair of parallel lines, I see that 8 angles are formed. 4 angles are formed whenever an intersection takes place. You can see that this intersection created 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. This intersection right here, also from line A with line C, created 1, 2, 3, 4 angles as well. So there were a total of 8 angles formed by the transversal here. Now, they also want to talk about congruent angles. I'm going to write that down. Congruent is not a new word. Congruent is simply a fancy name for equal or the same, meaning that they have the same measurement. Their measurements are equal. And since we have parallel lines, we're going to have equal angles. And so they're asking us which of the angles are congruent. Well, I should be able to see here that I cross here, and I should be able to see, well, 8 and 5, as we've learned earlier this chapter, those are opposite angles, which means they are congruent. So I know that 8 and 5 are congruent. And then if I come up here, since this is a parallel line, we're going to have corresponding angles. And 4 is in the same place as 8. And then 4 and 1 are opposite angles. So they're also going to be congruent. So 1, 4, 5, and 8 are all congruent angles. So I can say congruent angles are angle 1, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 8. That's a group right there. That's like an L. It's not really an L. It's just kind of like that. It's the symbol for angle. But if I also look at my congruent angles here, I'm going to see that 6 and 7 are opposite angles. So 6 and 7 are also congruent. 6 corresponds with 2 in the same location. 2 and 3 are opposite angles, so they are congruent. So 6, 7, 2, and 3 are also all congruent angles. Angle 6, angle 7, angle 2, and angle 3. They are also all a set of congruent angles. And so that is pretty much what we're doing there with congruent angles. Now, and transversals and parallel lines and all that good stuff. Now, you're going to get a set of directions that tell you to use the figure to find the measure of the numbered angles. So you're going to get a figure like this, and it's going to give you the value of one of the angles. And you're going to have a transversal with some parallel lines here. Now what you should be able to see is that since these lines are parallel, if this one is 112, angle 2 is also 112. Now, what you also now need to remember is that this here, line A, is a straight angle. A straight angle has 180 degrees. That's not new knowledge. We've talked about that before. So if this whole thing, A, the straight angle, is 180 degrees, and I know that angle 2 is already 100 degrees, to figure out angle 1, I should be doing 180 minus 112. You can plug that in your calculator. I can't do 0 minus 2. 8 becomes a 7. The 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. 7 minus 1 is 6. And 1 minus 1 is nothing. I see that angle 2 is equal to 112. Angle 1 is equal to 68. So I come over to this one. Same idea. Here I have my transversal A, my parallel line B, parallel line C. I see that this angle right here is 63 degrees. So I should be able to see that the one in the corresponding place, which is angle 1, is also 63 degrees. Okay? So I should be able to see just from seeing that angle 1 is equal to 63 degrees. But then just like I did in the first example, I need to remember that this line C is also a straight angle. Straight angles have a value of 180 degrees. So since angle 1 is 63 degrees, to figure out what angle 2 is, I've got to do 180 minus 63. I'm going to borrow from the 8. I'm going to make it a 7. Make the 0 a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 minus nothing is 1. I see that angle 2 is equal to 117 degrees. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. This one's a much bigger one now. It's not bigger, it's just more angles we've got to name. So let's see what in the world is going on here. Here I have my transversal A, my parallel line B, my parallel line C. 89 degrees. I know that the opposite angle has to be the same. So I know opposite of the 89, angle 2 is equal to 89 degrees. I then know that the corresponding one in the same spot is angle 7. So angle 7 must also be 89 degrees. And if angle 7 is 89 degrees, the opposite one from angle 7, which is angle 5, must also be 89 degrees. So angle 7 and angle 5 are also both equal to 89 degrees. Okay? Now, we want to remember our straight angle here. Okay? We want to remember our straight angle. 89 degrees. To figure out what angle 1 is, I have to do 180 minus 89 degrees. I can't do 0 minus 9. So I borrow from the 8, I make it a 7, I make the 0 a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. I can't do 7 minus 8. I borrow from the 1, make it a 0, make my 7 a 17. 17 minus 8 is 9. I get 91 degrees. I see that 89, the angle next to it, adjacent to it, to make that a straight angle, angle 1 must be 91 degrees. Well, if angle 1 is 91 degrees, the one opposite angle 1, which is angle 3, that must also be 91 degrees because opposite angles are equal. In the same spot as number 1 is number 4. And if number 1 and number 3 are 91, and number 4 is in the corresponding spot with 1, angle 4 must also be 91 degrees. But then angle 6 is opposite with angle 4. So angle 6 must also be 91 degrees. So I come over here, angle 4, angle 6, both are equal to 91 degrees. And that's how you do that part. Now, Get my board here. All right. One more thing we need to talk about here, 7th grade. So let me clear some space here. All right. So we're back here. Let me get my legs comfortable again. Now, we're going to get something that looks like this. All right. We're going to put this figure out here. All right. So we're going to kind of create that figure again. These are parallel lines, A and B. We have our crossing, which is angle C. All right, and then we have our angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so these are different angle measurements, and they're going to give you different sorts of things. All right, for example, you might get something that says, and we'll maybe do 3 at the most, if angle 1 is 78 degrees, then angle 6 must be blank. And they want to know the measurement. So they're saying if angle 1 is 78 degrees, then angle 6 must be blank. So I got to come over here to my figure, and I'm like, okay, so 1 is here, 6 is here. Well, we got to think. Now, we don't know for sure that this is 78 degrees, but that's not the point. The problem just says imagine that it is. So for what we're doing here for this first example, angle 1 is 78 degrees. Now, then I should know then angle 1 is 78 degrees. But 6 is way over here, so I have to connect that over here. Now, if angle 1 is 78 degrees, angle 5 is in the corresponding spot with angle 1. So if angle 1 is 78 degrees, then angle 5 must also be 78 degrees. But the question asks us about angle 6. Well, angle 6 is opposite to angle 5. And we know that opposite angles are equal. So if angle 5 is 78 degrees, then angle 6 must also be 78 degrees. Let's move along. If angle 8, not in, if angle 8 is 37 degrees, then angle 4 is blank. So if angle 8 is 37 degrees, which is this one right here, then angle 4 must be, well, if I look at angle 8 and angle 4 is right here, I should notice that those are in corresponding spots. They're both kind of in the top right that I see. So if this is 38 degrees, this one here in the corresponding spot must be equivalent. It must also be 37 degrees. Let's look at one more. If angle 7 is 123.4 degrees, then angle 2 is blank. So angle 7 is 123.4 degrees. All right, so then we're trying to, based on that, what is angle 2? Well, if angle 7 is 123.4 degrees, okay, then I think, well, angle 2 is right here. They're not corresponding. 7 is kind of at the bottom here, and the corresponding one would be angle 3. Angle 3, then, must also be 123.4 degrees, because they are in corresponding spots. But 3 is not the one in question, it's 2. Now 3 and 2 are not opposite angles. I can see here that 3 and 4 are opposite. So 4 must be 123.4, but that doesn't help me because I need to know angle 2. So I have to think again, line C is my straight angle. And if angle 3 is 123.4 degrees, then to figure out what angle 2 is, Okay, I'm going to have to subtract that from 180 because my straight angle, line C, is 180 degrees. So I'm going to have to come over here and I'm going to have to do 180 minus 123.4. Now I got to remember to have my decimals lined up. So I'm doing 0.0. I can't do 0 minus 4. Can't borrow from a 0. 8's going to become a 7. This 0 is going to become a 10. I'm going to borrow from the 10, make it a 9. Make that 0 a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. I'm going to drop the decimal. 9 minus 3 is 6. 7 minus 2 is 5. If angle 3 is 123.4 degrees, which we know it is, because the problem tells us angle 7 is 123.4 degrees. The straight angle, when I do 180 minus 123.4, I get 56.6 degrees. All right? Have a good day, 7th grade. We will work on this in class next week. I don't remember the date, but it'll be posted. All right, talk to you later.